should be asking the question, you should be answering. Then you would really experience this after.
Cyclones to continuous assessment, from pandemic to project deadlines. Everything feels like a disaster until someone manages it. Hi, I am Yasika Pugalia, and welcome to the first ever episode of Crisis Chat, an initiative under Center for Disaster Management and Law, National Law University Odisha, where we believe that life, law, and disaster all requires a little talk. This is where we explore the lighter human version of disaster, where how people react and recover, with experts who have not just studied disaster management but also experienced it. And our first guest truly embodies that. Joining me today is Professor Peppin, Adjunct Professor at National Law University, a name that stands tall in the field of human and institutional development. He has served as a dean at XIMP and TESS, worked with UNDP, UNICEF, and World Bank Institutes and more. In short, he's someone who has learned how to manage chaos both as a career and an art. Welcome, sir. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you.
Perfect answer. Sir, when students hear about disaster management, they generally think about earthquakes, cyclones, and floods. What do you think disaster management actually means?
Well, students are not wrong in thinking that, because now disaster, especially natural disaster and also man-made disaster, appear to be a daily phenomena when we look at the frequency at which such things happen. But at the same time, you are right. It is not about the hazardous or the disastrous part of a disaster. But when it comes to disaster management, it has many dimensions to look at. You want me to tell them now or later? Yeah, okay. When we look at disaster management, we need to look at how well we prepare ourselves and how well or what measures we take to reduce the risk. And also, what are the measures that we can take to prevent we cannot prevent disasters, but at least the onslaught of disaster. So therefore, we call it disaster preparedness and risk reduction. So preparedness, risk reduction, they form the essential component of disaster management.
All right. So technically, sir, our semester exams also qualify as a disaster.
Yes.
Except for the fact it does not have a relief fund.
It all depends on how do we look at the exam. If we look at a disaster or a joyful occasion, it is left to the students. But you are right. Yes, it can be a disaster for some students if they are not prepared.
Yes.
We talk about disaster preparedness.
Yes.
If you are well prepared, then exam may not be a disaster.
True, sir.
It can be a chaos for you.
Yes. Exactly. And just like real disasters, students prepare and some just respond to that. So I love that. So it's less about avoiding the crisis, it's more about the managing part of it.
See, we cannot avoid disasters, especially the natural disasters. Man-made disasters, yes, that is in our hands. We can avoid, the occurrence of man-made disasters. So, therefore, the fact that we cannot avoid natural disasters, so what is the best we can do? It is where the preparedness part comes in the picture. And in today's world, like young people like you, you are all well informed, well aware of what is happening in the world. Therefore, it shouldn't be difficult for you to prepare yourselves.
Yes.
For example, God forbid, if there is a natural calamity in Cuttack where we are situated, and I'm sure all of you will forget your studies and everything else, and then you plunge into, activities so that will involve rescue or relief or all kinds of activities that are required in a time of disaster.
Right. So basically, you want to say that disaster management is more of a mindset and not just a subject, right?
It is not just a mindset. It is also a subject in the sense there are a lot of things to learn. There are many organizations, starting with the governments, starting with the UN organizations, even civil society organizations, even small, NGOs, even small, community groups. They are also, preparing themselves to prevent disasters. So there are a lot of, guidelines and manuals, laws and policies, available now. So it is not just a mindset. It also like a subject you need to read. You need to learn more about disaster management.
Since we are the Center for Disaster Management and Law, I have to ask, where do you think law steps in when it comes to disaster?
I think law is an integral part of human existence,
Yes.
right? Therefore, disaster is not an exception to law. In fact, over a period of time, governments and the UN agencies have come out with various laws and policies and guidelines to prevent, to manage a disaster. For example, in our Indian context, we have the Disaster Management Act 2005. The same, act was amended in the form of a bill in 2024. The amendment, included the role of National Disaster Management Authority, the role of the state disaster management authorities, and also you talked about, how do we integrate technology when it comes to preparedness and the rescue and evacuation related activities. This is at our national level, but at the international level, we have international disaster response laws, and primarily promoted by International Federation of Red Cross and the Red Crescent. They have come out with various guidelines to deal with the disaster, and we also have a standard called this PS standard. There are a lot of other organizations involved in. We call it standard operating procedures, something like that. They also for example, for a flood related disaster, what we need to do. Let us say fire related disaster, what we need to do, and earthquake related. The disaster specific guidelines are also
there. Different protocols.
Protocols are there.
So laws are not just reactive; they are preventive also.
Preventive as well as I would say promotive and protective also.
Oh, that's promotive, preventive,
and protective. Yeah. Let us say prevention is before the occurrence, right? Now protection happens after the disaster has. For example, there are groups which are more vulnerable than the other.
Yes.
Okay. So we have Human Rights Act. All those acts will apply there. We cannot escape.
Yes.
So therefore, the protective aspect is also there. For example, people living with disabilities, right? Now they need to be cared more than the people with, abilities, right? So therefore, the protective aspect is all. For example, we have, a Forest Protection Act. Okay, so even the natural resources also need to be protected, be it water, air, or land, forest. They also need to be protected. Therefore, law is not only for prevention, it is also for protection and also promotion. For example, India is doing very well with regard to increasing our forest coverage.
That's 43%.
Yeah, so that thanks to the initiatives taken by the government and also the community groups, right?
Yes.
So similarly, if you see it from the climate change point of view, there are a lot of agencies working towards either reducing the onslaught of climate change or preventing the climate-related disasters.
So basically, sir, you want to say that prevention is better than a petition.
Well, that's a very good way of saying that. Yeah, you are right. But then, not everything can be prevented.
Right.
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 Unfortunately, our human behavior is such that one doesn't know how do we react in a particular situation, right?
Right.
Therefore, petition is also important. Therefore, law comes in. Yeah.
So, if you have the power to bring in any one law reform in as pertaining to disaster management, what would it be?
I think I can talk about how well our Odisha government has been doing. I think it is in the forefront of displaying some of the innovative practices of disaster management, right? Especially when it comes to prevention. For example, whenever a cyclone is, happening or our meteorological department announces, immediately our government system and the machinery, they plunge into action.
Yes.
Whether, evacuating people for a vulnerable situation and also making sure that whenever there is a damage, for example, electricity connection is disconnected or water supply is disrupted, they are ready to replace that and repair that.
Right.
So therefore, I think what is more than the law is, the kind of the not the awareness but the passion, the importance,
The
government, government gives to managing disaster. That is very important because laws can be many, but how does one implement the laws? I think it is where the major challenge comes in, which our government has been doing very well.
So is it just the government that has a role to play when it comes to disaster management on ground?
No. Ultimately, it is in the hands of the people.
Yes.
The community, right? But then government is there to guide, lead, provide what you call advice and suggestions, and the people, are there to follow that. And then the policies are also there, like how do we make use of the youth clubs, women's clubs, for example, self-help groups, what do you call community-based organizations, right? So the government is able to galvanize the support of such groups, and they are also well prepared, well trained. That is another aspect. Therefore, they also play equal role when it comes to disaster management.
So law is not just a system of rules, but a survival tool, right?
I would say to some extent, yes, because it has the, as I said, protective and promotive and preventive role. Therefore.
So you have been a dean, researcher, advisor, and now a professor. So what's that one most funniest and unforgettable classroom disaster that you have enjoyed?
Well, let me give another example. When I used to teach in XIMB, students are students and they, especially the Gen Z, students, right? They cannot do away with a cell phone.
Yes.
Right? So, as a teacher, as an institution, we have what we call it digital policy or something like that, okay? Especially in a classroom situation. And that policy, there is general policy, general guidelines, but each teacher is also, asked to, devise or innovate or change his, her way of doing things within the broader, policy perspective. So what I used to do, I would say, okay, and after the attendance is taken, I would give them 1 minute to everybody. Now you open your cell phone, and it is called smart time. Okay, smartphone, smart time, right? So you can call anybody you want to call or chat with anybody, send a WhatsApp message or whatever, but 1 minute.
Okay.
Then I would ask one of the students in the class to monitor, like keep the time. So, and some students may not have brought the cell phone, so they will sit quiet and others will do it. So I knew that some of the students, they were not chatting with X or Y, but they were watching something else. You understand, okay? So in one of the, one of such sessions, so I asked the neighbor of that student, whom I had little doubt, so can you check the phone and find out what he or she was watching? And he was watching a cricket match. So he was not chatting with anybody. Okay. Then I said, all right, so you're very fond of cricket. Yes, sir, I'm very fond of cricket. So who is your favorite star player? Then, he was telling that. Then I said, okay, the next class, I will give you 5 minutes and you are going to conduct a cricket match inside the classroom.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Sir, how can I do it, sir? I said, look, that is left to you. You have to, it has to be a cricket match. And you won't believe that boy, he was so very innovative. And he did not bring any bat or a ball or anything, but he brought a pen, okay, and rolled a piece of paper and asked one student, okay, you throw the paper and I will hit.
Oh.
Okay. He used to say, it is for everybody. One who hits that paper will get a prize, and one who does not hit, that person will give me a prize.
Oh.
So it was a very, fun-related activity. But what I'm trying to say, as a teacher, you need to be very creative, and in that very moment, punishing is pretty easy. Any teacher can punish. But will that help the student? Especially not an individual student, but as a class. So, and also you communicate a message. Look, when you are asked to do something, do what the teacher is asking you to do. And if you don't do it, but there is a consequence. You have to face it.
Basically, teachers nowadays need to be more accommodative and students need to be more...
I would say more than accommodative is, understanding.
Understanding.
Because, like when I was a student, it was long time back. I cannot, impose the same rules to the students of this era. So
Right.
I always say that it is not for the students to change, it is for the teachers to change.
So you've also worked with assisted everyone from DRDO to UNICEF. So what's that one thing that keeps you going with this teaching profession?
As I, told you, it is all about learning from them.
Yeah.
Because they are the people, who have worked in different countries, different continents. So they come with, so much of knowledge and skills. So when we work with them, you actually learn a lot.
So as a teacher, you are the one getting taught.
Taught, yes. Yeah.
That's really meaningful and that's really amazing to have that kind of an insight from a teacher himself.
Yeah.
So now it's time for a very fun segment of our podcast series. It's called the Manage This segment. Wherein I'll give you 6 crisis situations and you need to give me how will you respond to those crisis situations. Ready?
Ready.
So the first one, a cyclone warning during the university cultural fest. What would be your response to it?
My immediate, if I were to be the vice chancellor or the registrar or a person given some authority to do something, I would immediately make sure students are taken to safe places.
Okay. Second one would be power cut mid-webinar on resilience.
On resilience.
Yes.
I would say when there is a power cut, I would ask the participants to sing a song or whatever.
That's so cool. The third one would be a campus mock drill turns real.
Go ahead, participate.
Just go with the flow, experience it. Okay. The projector refuses to work before a class.
Don't teach.
Don't teach. Give them a free period.
Not a free period, like, engage them in some activities which they will enjoy. For example, you can ask them to quiz you.
Okay.
Ask them like, rapid fire or the way you are doing with me.
Yeah.
Instead of you doing it with them always. So pick up one or two students, come on, last class I taught you on this subject. Now you ask me 2-3 questions.
I think your students are very lucky to have you as a professor then. Okay, the next one would be half of your class didn't read the material.
At least the other half did read the material, right? So I would, celebrate the joy of, being with those students who have come late.
Okay. The last one is students email at 11:59 p.m. asking for a deadline extension.
No.
Strict no. Okay, this was really amazing. The professor's survival method. Okay, and on a serious note, sir, what's your one personal mantra that you follow during chaos?
Yeah, I pray.
You pray. You believe in God.
Yes.
Okay.
Because there are occasions, by the way, before I say that, we are not the author of our life. God is the author of our life. And He is in control of every situation that happens in your life. Especially, on such occasions, when I know that I can do very little, precious little to change situation, I surrender myself to Him. I'm in His hands. Okay, let your will be done.
That's the kind of advice that stays long with us. So, yeah. So, this has been such an inspiring and an enjoyable conversation. Thank you for being part of the first crisis chat.
My pleasure. I must say this has been one of the best and also the worst crisis I have experienced by participating in this podcast.
That's the best review we could ask for. And to everyone watching out there, remember that not every chaos can be avoided, but every crisis can be managed. Whether it's a cyclone or a continuous assessment, a classroom or a campus chaos. Stay calm, play smart, and laugh a little. This is Crisis Chat brought to you by Center for Disaster Management and Law, National Law University Odisha. Because life, law, and disaster all requires a little talk.